Hey, Sean, if you're trying to pick the right day rate for yourself to get you fairly paid for what you're doing as a creative, especially as a video professional, I wanted to walk through 3 steps that's going to help you pick the right day rate that's going to be fair and that's going to take care of you in the long run and be open to adjustment as you go down the road. Number 1, do a little bit of research to find out what other video producers and camera operators are charging for their day rate in your area, because this can vary wildly across the country and across different communities. In St. Louis, the rate ranges from $800 on the low end, give or take, to anywhere to $1,500 to $2,000 on the high end, or even up from there. But that may include other things, and we'll get to that. But be aware of that and ask other producers. Ask your colleagues what their day rate is, because hopefully you can hire them if you get big projects. But also being open about that helps us all charge a bit more fairly, and there's no reason to keep that a secret. You shouldn't be ashamed of your day rate. If you're ashamed of your day rate, it's probably the wrong day rate. And I can be upfront about mine. If I'm bringing less than $10,000 worth of gear, my day rate is $1,200 a day. If I am bringing more than $10,000 worth of gear, my day rate is $1,500 a day, and I do not uncouple my gear rental from my time. It's all just one solid rate that makes it pretty easy for people to hire me, and I haven't gotten any pushback with my day rate being set there for the things that I'm producing for people. Step 2 is to consider all the different things that go into your day rate, or come out of your day rate rather. But first is taxes. Let's say that your day rate is $1,000 a day. Remember that roughly 30%, depending on where you're working in the world, if you're in the United States, roughly 30% of your day rate goes straight to the government. So if you charge $1,000 a day, you really have $700 a day to play with. And of that $700, you don't just get to spend it all on rent and dog food. There's a lot of other things that are included in what you do aside from just the time that you spend on that day that you need to consider. Number 1 is gear rental. And if you are renting gear to be able to do the shoot, if you need to rent lenses and stuff like that, and that's not a separate charge that you're sending to the client, you need to remember that that's going to come out of your day rate. But the other way to look at it is if you own gear, which many of us do, that gear is expensive. And that's why I break my day rate into 2 separate tiers, or whether you're using more than $10,000 of my gear or less than $10,000 of my gear. And if I'm bringing a camera body, 2 or 3 lenses, and a stabilizer, that's easily $10,000 right there. And that's expensive. And clients need to remember that they have to pay for that. And where I end up having a conversation sometimes, and if you're having to have a conversation like this, let it be a red flag for how the rest of the relationship might go. But if people push back on my day rate, I say, well, hey, I'll bring my day rate down to $600 a day. But remember, we're going to have to rent a camera, memory cards, chargers, extension cords, lights. There's all these things that I include and maintain that need to be paid for. So of that $700, remember that some of that is going to own a camera, which costs several $1,000s, to own lenses, to own lights, microphones, whatever else you're bringing. So remember that gear needs to be paid for. Now, of what's left after that $700 pays for some of your gear, time is really the big piece of it. But it's important to remember that it's not just the day time. As you say, your day rate, it's not just 8 to 5. A lot of times shoots go longer than the standard 8 hours with an hour lunch, unless you're someplace with a well-regulated union running a set. For a lot of the independent contractor stuff that I end up doing around St. Louis, they're long days. They're getting there early, loading in for 2 hours, shooting all day long, and then wrapping sometime after dinner. That's more than just 8 hours. So if you're trying to think about what an hourly rate would be and then turning that into a day rate, remember that you're not just multiplying by 8. But the other piece of it is you're traveling there, and your travel time is important. And beyond that, your maintenance for your car or whatever vehicle or transportation, if you need to rent a van to bring gear, all of this stuff needs to be factored into your day rate. And the other thing that sometimes people forget is you're doing work to prep your gear. Not only are you buying and maintaining that gear and transporting it, but usually the day before or the few days before, you're prepping that gear. You're making sure all of your batteries are charged. You're getting your gear packed up. You're loading it into your vehicle the morning of, the night before. And then when you get done, you've got to unload it all and make sure that it's put back and recharged and cleaned. There's all these steps that happen outside of that. Let's say it's an 8 to 6 p.m. shoot. there's a lot that happens that you need to be compensated for, because if you get to the point where you're working every day that you want to work and getting paid for that, remember, you're going to be doing a lot of work outside of those working hours that you need to be compensated for. And if you're just hoping that you've got a day off to redo your gear and to reset everything, you're going to find yourself in an unsustainable position pretty quickly. So remember that your day rate should compensate you for the extra time you need before and after the gig to maintain the gear that people are bringing. Because if people understand that you're using rental gear from a rental house, what a rental house charges covers the cost to maintain that gear, to clean it, to check it in and out, to buy it in the first place. So remember, all of this gets included in your day rate. So as you step back and say, what does my day rate need to include? Remember all of these things. Think about how much money you're spending on gear and do the math to say, if I work X number of days a year, does that net me X amount of dollars to bring home at the end of the year to pay for my rent, my mortgage, and all these things? Because people can quickly forget that a lot goes in to being an independent contractor and to being a professional photographer or video producer or whatever these trades are. And part of what they pay you for is the ability for you to be ready to go on these flexible schedules. And if they expect you to have a normal day job and still to be available on a Thursday to come shoot all day, that's not how it works. And you need to also have health insurance. There's a lot of things that have to be included and amortized in your day rate, so that as you work as a professional, let's say you work 2-3 days a week on average, you need to make sure that that's enough to make you a living. So do the research to find out what other people are charging. Really take some consideration for what's going into your day rate, how many days of the year you intend to work, and how you're going to be compensated for all of the extra time that's spent outside of just those hours that you're actually on set. And then 3, don't compromise on your day rate unless the client is willing to compromise on their end too. I've been in situations on occasion where people have said, like, oh, we just don't have that budget. We just don't have the budget to pay $1,200, to pay $1,500 for a day rate. We have $900. We have $950. And when that happens, you can say yes to the gig. Just make sure that you're reminding yourself, and if you need to, the client, that this is your living, and there's a lot of things that you need to pay for to be able to do this. And so what I do in a situation like that is say, okay, I can bring my day rate down to that amount if it's a shoot that I want to do, but I'm not going to bring any lights, and I'm not going to bring extra lenses. We're just going to shoot everything sort of this way. And if that's fine, then great. You've got less to prepare, less to load the night before, less to maintain. Great. But if they push back and they say, actually, we really need you to have those other lenses, and we're going to be in some places where the light's really going to matter, it's pretty easy to say, well, then it's going to be worth paying for. And if you're not going to pay me for it, we should go rent it. And I guarantee you it's going to be more expensive for you to rent it from a rental house than if you were to just pay me my proper day rate and let me bring my gear that I know how to use better than I would know how to use rental gear, that we're going to be faster and leaner, and it's going to save everybody time and money. So do your research. Make a lot of considerations to picking a day rate that's actually going to be a sustainable professional living for you, and stand by that day rate when people ask you questions about it. So those are the steps that I followed to get to my day rate that I use, and I try to be open and transparent about my day rate to my clients and to other creators, because if other creators also raise their day rates, then the fight that we would potentially have with another customer gets easier. Because if they can always turn around and say, well, hey, I've got somebody who's going to do it for $500, I roll my eyes and I'm like, that's fine. They'll do it for $500. A, it's not going to be quite as good because they don't have the gear that our team has. But B, they're not going to be doing this for much longer if they're limiting themselves to $500, because there's just not enough money in there to do this with any sort of longevity. So it helps everybody if you raise your day rate to a place that's fair, and if you operate with a resolution to do work for that fair price. If you've got any questions or thoughts about how you pick your day rate, or if you want to share what yours is in the comments so that other people can feel confident about what they're charging where, please do that. I think that'd be awesome, because a rising tide raises all ships, right? Thanks for watching. See you later. Bye.